several years ago when you, I believe at the age of 40, were looking to get out of the Israeli Reserve Army, or looking to leave.
You did good homework. Yeah, in Israel you serve 3 years in the army, and then you serve until the age of 50 in the reserve, doing something like between 2 weeks and a month every year. And I was not a big fighter in the reserve. I was a screenwriter. I was writing short instructions, movies for TV, like how to defend yourself from Iranian atomic attack in 60 seconds. And I had this agreement with the army because I don't have to wear a uniform and I don't have to get out of bed. They can call me whenever they want. So you go to the hospital to give birth with your wife. She gives birth to the first child. They call you just when he's about to be born. Can you give us 60 seconds about this house there, the chemicals over it, you know? So always the wrong time. I told them I want to get out before. They said, you know what? We're having this experiment. If you go to see the Army's therapist, tell him everything you went through during your regular service, we will let you out 10 years younger. And I went for it, and after 8 or 10 sessions, I realized that it was for me the first time ever to hear myself speak about what I went through during the service, to hear my story. The story was not that extraordinary, it was just the fact that it was so deep down suppressed. And it's not that I went through any kind of total amnesia thing out of a car accident. I didn't know who I am, who my mother was. I had the main storyline, but there were black holes in it. Then I went out and I discussed it with my best friends, and I realized I know nothing about what they did in the army. We're all about the same age. And then came Boaz with the dog's dream, and everything started to roll. This was it.
Because you had not really kept touch with any of the soldiers that you served with.
I deliberately disconnected all strings with people who were with me in the army. I took this decision when I was released at the age of 22, and never answered phone calls. And I decided to forget, and I worked hard in order to do it, and I did succeed.
I mean, you've spoken, and it was a very conscious decision, and you said often that repression is not necessarily a bad thing.
Well, it's a great thing if it's a method for survival, and for some people it works, and it can work for your whole life. But you know, for a lot of people, one day, for I don't know what reason, things can be out, not being controlled anymore, and then you have to deal with it. So this is the case here.
Right, and you dealt with it, and this is the result.
Yes.
4 years in the making?
4 years.
And the filmmaking aspects of that journey were enjoyable, the therapy sessions, not so much.
The hardest thing was really to take the decision to do the film. Once I took the decision, I mean, making the film, it was not as tough as people tend to think. It's not that really difficult. I mean, of course, I was going through a lot of emotional stuff, and while meeting people I haven't met for so many years, and hearing all those stories, but you know, in the research we heard more than 100 testimonies, and I realized when I heard those testimonies that my story is really a mediocre story. Really, I went through nothing compared to all those other guys who contacted us after we put that ad in the internet. So I consider myself lucky.
That's what you did. You put an ad on the internet just to
put an ad that I'm looking for stories from the first Lebanon War, or the first 3 months of the Lebanon War, and we got a response from more than 100 people.
the decision to make it an animated film was immediate, right?
Well, it was not. It was an animated film. It's not a. It never was any other kind of film. It was do it animation or don't do it. Because if you look at everything you have in this film, like lost memory, memory, war, which is probably the most surreal thing on earth. Dreams, subconscious, hallucinations, drugs, lost youth, everything. For me, the only way to combine it into one fluid storyline would be drawings and animation. So I wouldn't do it any other way.
I mean, if you had, we probably wouldn't be here.
I wouldn't, then we wouldn't be here.
I mean, in the sense that, I mean, that decision to make this, I mean, was a real artistic decision. Otherwise, you've got a movie that would probably, a few people would see, but it wouldn't have hit the nerve like this film has.
I mean, what would it have been anyhow? If it would have been a classic documentary, you would see a middle-aged man telling their memories from the war, and then you have to cover it with footage, and you can't find any footage that will never resemble what they're talking about. This is boring. And then if you make a big action movie, a war movie, with the budget of an Israeli movie, well, it can be sad, you know? So there was not really any other option.
And still, there wasn't any other option, but yet it was 4 years in the making, and you made like 3 minutes of it. You took it to Toronto.
What we did, okay, there was the research, and based upon the research, I wrote the script. It's a feature-length script, and then we shot everything on soundstage, because from my previous animation work, I realized that human ear is completely non-tolerant toward location sound for animation. So we did everything on soundstage, and we tried to dramatize as much as we could while shooting. For example, if I would have interviewed you in a car, like I do with Carmody, I would sit with a plastic wheel I stole from my kid, and we pretend that we were in a car. And everything we could dramatize, we did. So then we had a feature-length video film, which is interviews and basic sketches and just titles and captions and photographs and a lot of voiceover. And this was like the main reference for the complete thing. Then we turned it into a storyboard, basic storyboard, and then the storyboard into a video board, which is basic sketches and basic movement with the music and everything. And we screened that video board all over the world to all our partners to see that the dramatic themes work. Then we picked more than 3,000 frames, which were the key frames. And then we started animating it 4 years with it home, easy. There were only 6 animators in Israel qualified to do this job. Then we found another 2, but when we had to complete the film and look for another 2, we couldn't find them. So it was tough.
You said that you're going into the Israeli, you wanted out of the reserve, and they said we're doing an experiment, and they sent you to the therapist. This film seems to be kind of speaking to that experiment of getting people who served in the army to deal with what they dealt with for that required service.
Well, honestly, I was asked in the previous screening what was the experiment all about. And I thought, I never asked, you know? So I don't know. I wanted to get out, so I did it.